Every morning you wake up, before the world makes its demands, before distractions pull at your attention, before doubts begin their familiar noise, there is a quiet moment where your mind is most open. In that moment, what you tell yourself matters more than anything else, because the first thoughts of the day do not stay in the morning. They follow you into your decisions, your actions, and the way you carry yourself through every challenge that appears. The first powerful thing to tell yourself is that you are in control of your mind. Your thoughts will try to run ahead of you, replaying yesterday's mistakes or imagining today's problems before they even happen. If you allow this, your energy is spent before the day begins. When you remind yourself that you control your mind, you reclaim authority. Thoughts may appear, emotions may rise, but they do not command you. You choose where your attention goes. You choose what deserves your energy. This single reminder creates calm, focus, and strength, because a mind that is led intentionally cannot be easily shaken by external noise. The second powerful thing to tell yourself is that you choose discipline over comfort. Comfort is seductive. It promises ease and relief, but it quietly steals progress. Discipline, on the other hand, feels uncomfortable in the moment, yet it builds confidence, self-respect, and momentum. When you tell yourself this in the morning, you prepare for resistance before it arrives. You stop negotiating with excuses later in the day. You understand that doing what must be done is not dependent on mood, motivation, or convenience. Each disciplined action becomes a vote for the person you are becoming, and with every repetition, that identity grows stronger. The third powerful thing to tell yourself is that you will give your best, regardless of circumstances. The day may not go as planned. People may disappoint you. Situations may challenge you. None of that removes your responsibility for effort. When you commit to giving your best, you free yourself from the need for perfect conditions. You stop waiting for life to be easy and start meeting it with presence and intention. Giving your best does not mean being perfect. It means being fully engaged, honest in effort, and willing to learn from whatever unfolds. This mindset builds resilience, because no matter the outcome, you know you did not betray your own standards. When these three thoughts are planted in the mind each morning, they shape behavior without force. Control of the mind brings clarity. Discipline builds structure. Commitment to effort creates confidence. Together, they form a foundation that does not depend on luck or external validation. They train you to lead yourself before trying to lead your day. Over time, mornings stop being rushed beginnings and become deliberate preparations. The way you speak to yourself at the start of the day becomes the quiet strength that carries you through pressure, challenge, and uncertainty, reminding you that before the world speaks, you have already decided who you are and how you will move forward. Mastering the inner world before the outer world means understanding that everything you experience externally is first shaped internally. Your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and reactions silently construct the reality you live in. Long before actions are taken or words are spoken, the mind has already decided the direction. If the inner world is chaotic, unfocused, and undisciplined, the outer world will reflect that disorder in the form of confusion, stress, and instability. Trying to control circumstances without first controlling the mind is like trying to calm the surface of water while the storm still rages beneath it. The inner world is where habits are born. Every repeated thought becomes a belief, and every belief eventually becomes behavior. When the mind is left untrained, it naturally seeks comfort, avoids difficulty, and resists growth. This is not weakness, but human nature. However, those who never confront this tendency remain trapped by it. They wait for motivation, favorable conditions, or external validation before taking action. In doing so, they surrender control of their lives to circumstances beyond themselves. Mastery begins when you recognize that waiting is a choice and that discipline is a skill that can be cultivated internally. Emotional control is one of the most visible signs of inner mastery. Life will always present challenges, criticism, loss, and uncertainty. These are unavoidable. What is avoidable is being ruled by emotional reactions. When anger dictates decisions, regret follows. When fear leads, potential shrinks. When impatience controls behavior, relationships suffer. Mastering the inner world does not mean suppressing emotions but understanding them, observing them, and choosing how to respond rather than reacting impulsively. This space between stimulus and response is where freedom exists. The mind often creates stories that are not true. It exaggerates failures, predicts negative outcomes, and compares constantly. These mental habits shape self-image and confidence. If unchecked, they become invisible barriers that limit progress. Inner mastery requires questioning these stories. It demands awareness of thought patterns and the courage to challenge them. Not every thought deserves belief, and not every feeling requires action. The ability to pause, reflect, and redirect the mind is a form of strength far greater than physical force. Focus is another pillar of the inner world. In an age of constant distraction, the ability to concentrate deeply has become rare and valuable. A scattered mind produces scattered results. Without focus, effort is wasted, and goals remain distant. Training focus begins internally by setting boundaries, learning to sit with boredom, and resisting the urge for constant stimulation. When the mind learns to stay present, work becomes sharper, learning becomes faster, and decisions become clearer. Discipline is often misunderstood as punishment, but at its core, it is self-respect in action. It is the decision to do what is necessary even when it is uncomfortable. This decision is made internally long before it is visible externally. You wake up earlier not because the alarm forces you to, but because the mind has already committed. You train, study, or work consistently because the inner agreement has been made. Without this internal alignment, external routines collapse at the first sign of resistance. The outer world rewards consistency, but consistency is sustained by inner stability. When identity is tied to effort rather than outcome, persistence becomes natural. Success and failure lose their emotional extremes because the focus shifts to process and growth. This mindset is cultivated internally through reflection, patience, and honest self-assessment. Instead of blaming circumstances, the question becomes what can be improved internally to handle this better next time. Inner mastery also shapes how you perceive others. When the inner world is calm, external chaos feels less threatening. Criticism becomes information rather than a personal attack. The success of others becomes inspiration instead of insecurity. Relationships improve because reactions are thoughtful instead of defensive. This does not mean becoming passive or indifferent, but grounded. A grounded person moves with intention, not impulse. Silence plays a crucial role in mastering the inner world. In silence, distractions fade and awareness sharpens. It becomes easier to notice mental patterns, emotional triggers, and hidden motivations. Without silence, the mind is constantly occupied, leaving no space for understanding. Even brief moments of stillness each day can reveal insights that constant activity conceals. Silence is not emptiness, it is clarity. The body and mind are deeply connected, and inner mastery extends to physical awareness. Breathing, posture, and movement influence mental state. A controlled breath calms the nervous system. A strong posture reinforces confidence. Physical discipline strengthens mental resilience. When the body is trained with intention, the mind learns endurance and patience. This internal dialogue between body and mind becomes a foundation for handling external pressure. Fear often dominates the inner world more than any external obstacle. Fear of failure, judgment, or uncertainty can paralyze action. Mastering the inner world means acknowledging fear without allowing it to dictate choices. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Each time fear is faced internally, confidence grows. Over time, what once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Ultimately, the outer world is unpredictable. People change, circumstances shift, and outcomes are never guaranteed. The inner world, however, is always accessible. When it is disciplined, calm, and focused, external challenges lose their power to destabilize. You may not control what happens, but you control how you meet it. This control is built daily through awareness, discipline, and deliberate thought. The person who masters the inner world carries stability wherever they go, because their strength does not depend on external conditions, but on an internal foundation that continues to deepen, refine, and expand through conscious effort and unwavering self-observation. Discomfort is often misunderstood as something to avoid, suppress, or escape. From an early age, people are conditioned to seek ease, convenience, and immediate relief. Comfort becomes the default goal, while discomfort is labeled as failure, weakness, or something gone wrong. Yet discomfort is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. It is often proof that you are moving beyond what is familiar. Growth does not announce itself gently. It arrives through resistance, friction, and unease, demanding attention and adaptation. Every meaningful transformation in life begins with discomfort. Learning a new skill strains the mind. Strengthening the body stresses muscles. Developing emotional maturity forces confrontation with fear, insecurity, and vulnerability. These sensations are not punishments, they are signals. They indicate that old limits are being challenged. Without discomfort, the body would never grow stronger, the mind would never sharpen, and character would never deepen. Comfort preserves the current state, while discomfort pushes evolution. The mind instinctively resists discomfort because it is wired for survival, not growth. It interprets unfamiliar sensations as threats and seeks immediate relief. This is why excuses appear the moment effort is required. Fatigue is exaggerated, fear is amplified, and doubt becomes louder. Understanding this mechanism is crucial. Discomfort is not dangerous, it is simply unfamiliar. When this distinction is recognized, the power of discomfort changes. Instead of being something to flee from, it becomes something to study. Discomfort teaches awareness. When something feels difficult, attention sharpens. You become more present, more conscious of your actions and reactions. In comfortable routines, the mind drifts on autopilot. Days blur together, habits go unquestioned, and potential remains dormant. Discomfort interrupts this cycle. It forces reflection. It asks why something feels hard and what lies beneath that resistance. In this way, discomfort becomes a mirror, revealing weaknesses, attachments, and unexamined beliefs. Emotional discomfort is one of the most powerful teachers. Feelings such as fear, anxiety, frustration, and embarrassment are often avoided, yet they carry valuable information. Fear points to areas where courage is undeveloped. Anxiety highlights uncertainty and the need for preparation or acceptance. Frustration exposes expectations and impatience. Embarrassment reveals sensitivity to judgment and identity. When these emotions are observed rather than suppressed, they guide growth. Avoiding them only allows them to control behavior from the background. Physical discomfort also carries lessons. Fatigue teaches the limits of endurance and the importance of recovery. Pain demands respect for the body and attention to technique and balance. Training through controlled discomfort builds resilience and mental toughness. Each repetition completed despite strain strengthens not just muscles but confidence. The body learns that it can endure more than the mind initially believes. This realization extends beyond physical effort into every area of life. Discomfort reveals discipline. Anyone can act when motivation is high and conditions are ideal. Discipline appears when enthusiasm fades and resistance rises. Choosing to continue despite discomfort is a declaration of commitment. It is a statement that values are stronger than moods. Over time, this choice reshapes identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who avoids difficulty, but as someone who can face it. This internal shift changes how challenges are approached and how setbacks are handled. Many people remain stuck not because they lack ability, but because they misinterpret discomfort as a warning to stop. They retreat at the first sign of struggle, believing it confirms inadequacy. In reality, struggle often indicates that learning is occurring. Mastery requires passing through periods of confusion, clumsiness, and self-doubt. Those who accept this process progress steadily, while those who avoid discomfort restart endlessly, never staying long enough to grow. Discomfort also refines focus. When something matters, enduring discomfort becomes meaningful. The mind learns to prioritize long-term benefit over short-term relief. This ability strengthens decision-making. Choices become less reactive and more intentional. Instead of asking what feels easiest, the question becomes what leads to growth. This shift in perspective changes habits, routines, and ultimately outcomes. Social discomfort plays a significant role in personal development. Speaking honestly, setting boundaries, or standing alone in values often feels uncomfortable. The fear of rejection or misunderstanding can silence authenticity. Yet avoiding this discomfort leads to resentment and self-betrayal. Facing it builds integrity and self-respect. Over time, the discomfort of self-expression diminishes, replaced by the stability of alignment between inner values and outward actions. Discomfort teaches patience. Progress is rarely immediate. Effort does not always produce visible results right away. This gap between action and reward can be uncomfortable. Testing persistence. Learning to remain consistent without instant feedback strengthens faith in the process. It trains the mind to trust effort over outcome and to value progress that is not yet visible. There is also discomfort in stillness. Silence, solitude, and introspection can feel unsettling because they remove distractions that normally numb awareness. In this quiet, unresolved thoughts and emotions surface. This discomfort is often avoided through constant activity or noise. Yet it is in stillness that clarity emerges. Sitting with discomfort without escaping it allows understanding to develop. What once felt overwhelming becomes familiar and manageable. Over time, the relationship with discomfort changes. It no longer feels like an enemy attacking from the outside, but a signal arising from within. Each experience of facing it builds confidence. The threshold of tolerance expands. Challenges that once felt impossible become manageable, even expected. This does not mean discomfort disappears, but its power to intimidate fades. Those who learn from discomfort develop resilience that cannot be taken away. External conditions may fluctuate, but the ability to endure, adapt, and continue remains. This resilience is not loud or aggressive. It is quiet and steady. It shows in how setbacks are handled, how pressure is absorbed, and how uncertainty is faced. Discomfort becomes less about suffering and more about refinement, shaping strength through repeated exposure and conscious response. When discomfort is embraced as a teacher, life becomes a continuous training ground. Each challenge offers instruction. Each struggle carries insight. Instead of asking how to avoid difficulty, the question shifts to what this experience is meant to develop. This mindset transforms adversity into opportunity and effort into purpose. Discomfort stops being a barrier and becomes a guide, pointing toward growth, depth, and capability that would otherwise remain dormant within the limits of ease and familiarity. Motivation is often celebrated as the driving force behind success. It is portrayed as the spark that ignites action and fuels progress. While motivation can be powerful, it is also unreliable. It rises and falls with mood, energy, environment, and emotion. Some days it appears effortlessly, and on others it disappears without warning. Building a life, a skill, or a purpose that depends on motivation alone creates instability, because motivation was never meant to be a constant source of fuel. Consistency, on the other hand, does not depend on how you feel. It is rooted in decision, structure, and identity. Consistency is the quiet commitment to show up repeatedly, regardless of enthusiasm or circumstance. It transforms effort into habit and habit into character. Where motivation starts, consistency sustains. It does not demand intensity, only persistence. This persistence, repeated over time, produces results that bursts of motivation cannot. Motivation is emotional, while consistency is behavioral. Emotions fluctuate naturally, influenced by sleep, stress, weather, and external events. Expecting emotional energy to remain stable is unrealistic. Consistency bypasses this problem by removing emotion from the equation. The action is taken because it is scheduled, expected, and non-negotiable. Over time, this creates momentum that no longer requires excitement to continue. People often wait to feel motivated before acting. This creates delay and reinforces procrastination. The longer action is postponed, the heavier it feels. Consistency reverses this pattern. Action comes first and motivation follows. Once movement begins, energy often increases. Progress becomes visible, confidence builds, and motivation emerges as a byproduct rather than a prerequisite. Consistency simplifies decision-making. When actions are habitual, there is less mental debate. You no longer ask whether you should train, study, write, or practice. The decision has already been made. This reduces cognitive fatigue and preserves mental energy for execution. Motivation demands constant negotiation with the mind, while consistency removes the need for negotiation altogether. Small actions performed consistently outperform large actions performed occasionally. A modest effort repeated daily compounds over time. Skills sharpen, knowledge accumulates, and endurance strengthens. This compounding effect is subtle at first, often invisible. Many abandon consistency during this phase because results are not immediate. Those who persist through this quiet period eventually experience exponential growth. The difference is not talent or luck, but patience. Consistency builds trust with oneself. Each time you follow through, self-respect increases. Each time you break a promise to yourself, it erodes. Motivation cannot repair this damage because it is temporary. Consistency repairs and strengthens internal credibility. When you know you will act regardless of mood, confidence becomes grounded and stable. This self-trust extends into other areas of life, improving decision-making and resilience. Motivation thrives on novelty. It is excited by new goals, fresh starts, and dramatic changes. Once novelty fades, motivation weakens. Consistency thrives on routine. It is strengthened by repetition and familiarity. This makes it far more reliable over long periods. While motivation seeks excitement, consistency seeks progress. Progress, even when slow, produces lasting change. Discipline and consistency are often confused, but consistency is discipline in motion. Discipline is the inner agreement. Consistency is its external expression. You may feel disciplined for a moment, but without consistent action, discipline remains theoretical. Consistency translates intention into reality. It is visible in daily choices, repeated behaviors, and sustained effort. Setbacks test consistency more than motivation. When progress stalls or failure occurs, motivation often collapses. Consistency persists through setbacks by focusing on process rather than outcome. A consistent person does not interpret failure as a reason to stop, but as part of the rhythm of effort. They adjust, continue, and refine. This adaptability is built through repetition, not inspiration. Consistency also creates identity. When actions are repeated long enough, they become part of how you see yourself. You stop trying to exercise and become someone who trains. You stop trying to learn and become someone who studies. Identity-driven behavior is powerful because it reinforces itself. Acting consistently strengthens identity, and identity strengthens consistency. Motivation often seeks perfection. It wants ideal conditions, optimal timing, and full readiness. Consistency accepts imperfection. It allows for low energy days, incomplete efforts, and gradual improvement. This flexibility makes consistency sustainable. Perfectionism exhausts motivation, while consistency adapts and continues. External validation can boost motivation, but it is fleeting. Praise fades, results plateau, and comparison drains energy. Consistency does not rely on external approval. It is internal and self-directed. This independence makes it resilient. When external rewards disappear, consistent action remains. Time magnifies consistency. What feels insignificant today becomes significant over months and years. Many underestimate this effect because the mind is drawn to immediate results. Consistency requires trust in delayed reward. This trust develops through experience, as small efforts eventually accumulate into visible progress. Those who understand this principle stop chasing shortcuts and focus on sustainability. Consistency also protects against burnout. Motivation-driven effort often leads to extremes, followed by exhaustion. Consistency favors moderation. It encourages pacing, balance, and recovery. This makes long-term effort possible. Sustainable progress requires energy management, not constant intensity. In challenging moments, motivation asks why you should continue. Consistency already knows the answer. The reason has been decided in advance. This removes doubt during moments of weakness. You act because this is what you do, not because you feel inspired. Consistency transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary outcomes. It does not rely on rare moments of brilliance, but on repeated execution of fundamentals. Over time, this reliability becomes a competitive advantage. While others wait for motivation, consistent individuals accumulate experience, skill, and resilience. The greatest achievements are rarely the result of sudden inspiration. They are the result of showing up repeatedly, doing the work quietly, and trusting the process. Motivation may initiate the journey, but consistency determines how far it goes. Those who understand this stop chasing feelings and start building systems, routines, and habits that carry them forward regardless of emotional state. Energy is the invisible force behind every action, decision, and interaction. It shapes how you move through the world, how you respond to challenges, and how others experience you. While circumstances, people, and environments can influence energy, responsibility for it ultimately lies within. Waiting for external conditions to provide motivation, calm, or focus places control outside yourself. Taking responsibility for your energy means recognizing that your internal state is not dictated by events, but managed through awareness and choice. Every day begins with a certain level of energy, and how it is used determines the quality of the day. Energy is not only physical, it is mental and emotional. Physical energy comes from sleep, nutrition, movement, and breathing. Mental energy comes from focus, clarity, and the ability to direct attention. Emotional energy comes from how feelings are processed and expressed. Neglecting any of these dimensions creates imbalance. Taking responsibility means tending to all of them intentionally rather than reacting passively. Many people leak energy without realizing it. Overthinking drains mental resources. Holding grudges exhausts emotional reserves. Constant comparison weakens confidence. Complaining reinforces helplessness. These patterns feel habitual, but they are choices repeated unconsciously. Awareness is the first step to reclaiming energy. When you notice where energy is being lost, you gain the power to redirect it. Responsibility begins with observation. External triggers often become excuses for internal chaos. A rude comment, an unexpected delay, or a small setback can shift mood instantly. While triggers are real, reactions are learned. You cannot control what happens, but you can control how long it controls you. Allowing minor events to dictate emotional state hands over energy without consent. Taking responsibility means deciding when to engage and when to let go. Boundaries are a crucial part of energy management. Saying yes to everything dilutes focus. Overcommitting leads to resentment and fatigue. Responsibility for energy requires discernment. Choosing where to invest attention, time, and emotion preserves strength. Boundaries are not walls but filters, allowing what nourishes to pass and blocking what depletes unnecessarily. The people you surround yourself with influence energy, but they do not own it. Blaming others for how you feel removes agency. Even in difficult environments, you retain the ability to regulate your internal state. This does not mean ignoring injustice or suppressing emotion, but choosing constructive responses. Victimhood drains energy, responsibility restores it. Language shapes energy. The words you use internally and externally affect mood and perception. Negative self-talk reinforces limitation. Complaints amplify dissatisfaction. Intentional language shifts focus and attitude. Reframing challenges as opportunities or lessons changes the energy brought to them. Responsibility for energy includes responsibility for inner dialogue. Rest is often mistaken for laziness, yet it is essential for sustainable energy. Pushing constantly without recovery leads to burnout. Taking responsibility means honoring the need for rest without guilt. Quality rest replenishes physical strength, sharpens mental clarity, and stabilizes emotion. Ignoring this need depletes energy faster than any external demand. Movement is a powerful regulator of energy. The body influences the mind more quickly than the mind influences the body. Posture, breath, and motion can shift emotional state instantly. Slouched posture reinforces fatigue. Upright posture promotes alertness. Shallow breathing sustains anxiety. Deep breathing signals calm. Responsibility for energy includes using the body deliberately to support internal balance. Focus determines where energy flows. Scattered attention produces scattered results. Multitasking fragments mental energy and reduces effectiveness. Choosing to focus on one task at a time conserves energy and increases quality of output. This focus is a discipline practiced internally. Each time attention is redirected intentionally, energy is reclaimed. Emotional responsibility is central to energy management. Suppressed emotions do not disappear, they consume energy beneath the surface. Acknowledging feelings without being ruled by them frees emotional space. Processing emotions through reflection, expression, or movement prevents accumulation. Responsibility does not mean avoiding emotion, but handling it consciously. Stress is often less about workload and more about resistance. Fighting reality consumes energy. Acceptance does not mean approval but recognition of what is. When energy is spent resisting what cannot be changed, little remains for what can. Taking responsibility involves distinguishing between control and influence, then directing energy accordingly. Purpose provides direction for energy. Without purpose, energy scatters into distractions and temporary reliefs. Clear intention focuses effort and sustains momentum. Responsibility includes defining what matters and aligning energy with those values. When actions reflect purpose, energy feels renewable rather than draining. Distractions are not neutral, they cost energy. Constant notifications, endless scrolling, and unnecessary noise fragment attention. Choosing to limit distractions is an act of responsibility. Protecting mental space allows energy to be invested where it matters most. Energy is also shaped by gratitude and perspective. Focusing on lack amplifies dissatisfaction. Recognizing what is present stabilizes emotion. This does not deny challenges but balances perception. Responsibility for energy includes choosing perspective intentionally. Anger, when uncontrolled, burns energy rapidly. When understood, it signals boundaries or unmet needs. Channeling anger into action or clarity preserves energy. Letting it linger drains it. Responsibility means deciding how long emotion stays and what it becomes. Consistency in daily habits stabilizes energy. Irregular routines create peaks and crashes. Simple structures for sleep, meals, work, and reflection provide predictability that conserves energy. Responsibility is shown in maintaining these structures even when motivation is low. Ultimately, energy determines experience. Two people can face the same situation and experience it completely differently based on their internal state. Taking responsibility for energy is taking responsibility for life quality. It is an ongoing practice of awareness, choice, and adjustment. Each moment offers an opportunity to reclaim, redirect, or replenish energy, reinforcing the understanding that while you cannot control everything around you, you can govern what flows within and how it shapes every action, reaction, and interaction that follows. Silence is often mistaken for emptiness, inactivity, or absence. In a world driven by constant noise, conversation, and stimulation, silence can feel uncomfortable or even threatening. Yet silence is not a lack of content. It is a space where awareness sharpens. When external noise fades, internal signals become clearer. Thoughts, emotions, and sensations that are usually drowned out rise into perception. Silence removes distraction and reveals what is already present. Modern life rewards constant engagement. Devices buzz, voices compete, and attention is pulled in multiple directions. This continuous input trains the mind to react rather than observe. Awareness weakens when the mind is always occupied. Silence interrupts this cycle. It creates a pause in which the mind can settle and perception can deepen. In this pause, awareness shifts from surface level reaction to deeper understanding. Silence strengthens awareness by slowing mental activity. When fewer external stimuli demand attention, the mind naturally begins to notice subtler details. Breathing becomes more apparent. Bodily sensations become clearer. Emotional undercurrents reveal themselves. This heightened sensitivity allows for a more accurate understanding of internal state. Without silence, these signals are often ignored until they manifest as stress, fatigue, or conflict. Thoughts behave differently in silence. Instead of being triggered continuously by external input, they arise more slowly and distinctly. This makes it easier to observe them without immediately identifying with them. Awareness grows when thoughts are seen as events rather than commands. Silence provides the distance needed to watch the mind rather than be carried by it. Emotional awareness is refined through silence. Feelings that are suppressed or masked by activity surface when noise fades. This can be uncomfortable, which is why silence is often avoided. Yet these emotions carry important information. They point to unresolved experiences, unmet needs, or misaligned actions. By sitting in silence and allowing emotions to be felt without judgment, awareness deepens and emotional intelligence develops. Silence also strengthens awareness of the body. In stillness, posture, tension, and breath become noticeable. Subtle discomforts that are ignored during movement or conversation come into focus. This awareness allows for adjustment before pain or injury develops. The body constantly communicates, but silence is required to listen. Attention becomes more intentional in silence. Without constant stimulation, the mind learns to rest on a single object or sensation. This trains concentration and presence. Awareness expands not by adding more information, but by perceiving more fully what is already there. Silence sharpens the ability to stay with experience rather than escape it. Listening improves through silence. When internal noise quiets, external sounds are perceived more clearly. Conversations become more meaningful because attention is undivided. Awareness extends beyond words to tone, expression, and intention. Silence teaches how to listen without preparing a response, creating deeper connection and understanding. Silence exposes habitual patterns. In the absence of distraction, recurring thoughts and reactions become obvious. Worries repeat, judgments surface, and narratives replay. Awareness grows as these patterns are recognized. What was previously unconscious becomes visible. Recognition is the first step toward change. Stillness within silence allows for reflection. Experiences can be processed rather than immediately replaced by new ones. Lessons emerge when there is space to integrate them. Without reflection, experiences remain unexamined and awareness remains shallow. Silence provides the environment where insight can arise naturally. Silence strengthens awareness of time. Without constant activity, moments feel fuller and more expansive. The present becomes more vivid. This reduces the sense of rushing and anxiety. Awareness of time as an experience rather than a pressure shifts perception and behavior. Creativity often emerges from silence. When the mind is not occupied with input, it begins to generate connections. Ideas surface unexpectedly. Awareness of subtle inspiration increases. Many insights arise not from effort, but from quiet attention. Silence creates the conditions for this emergence. Silence also reveals resistance. The urge to check a device, speak, or move arises quickly in stillness. Observing this urge without acting on it strengthens awareness of impulse. This observation builds self-control and patience. Awareness grows through the ability to notice desire without immediate fulfillment. In silence, identity loosens. Without constant reinforcement through speech or interaction, the sense of self becomes less rigid. Awareness expands beyond roles and labels. This can be unsettling, but it also brings freedom. The space between thoughts and identity becomes visible. Silence cultivates humility. Without noise, the vastness of internal and external experience becomes apparent. Awareness recognizes limits of knowledge and control. This humility fosters openness and learning. Nature amplifies the effect of silence. In natural environments, silence is filled with subtle sound and rhythm. Awareness attunes to patterns beyond human activity. This broadens perception and reduces self-centered focus. Silence strengthens awareness in action as well. Pauses between movements, words, or decisions allow for alignment. Actions become deliberate rather than automatic. Awareness guides behavior more consistently. The practice of silence does not require isolation or withdrawal. It can exist within daily life through intentional pauses, quiet moments, and reduced stimulation. Each moment of silence trains awareness to remain present. Over time, silence becomes less uncomfortable and more nourishing. What once felt empty reveals depth. Awareness becomes sharper, more stable, and more expansive. Silence stops being something to endure and becomes something to return to, a space where perception refines itself and understanding unfolds without force or noise. Every day, whether consciously or not, you are training something. You are either training discipline, awareness, and strength, or you are training avoidance, distraction, and weakness. There is no neutral state. The mind and body adapt continuously to whatever they are exposed to most often. When training is intentional, growth follows direction. When it is absent, habit takes control. Habit does not ask what is best, it repeats what is familiar. Habits are powerful because they operate below conscious awareness. They conserve energy by automating behavior. This efficiency is useful when habits are aligned with values, but destructive when they are not. Without daily training, habits form around convenience and comfort. These patterns slowly shape identity. You become what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally intend. Training daily is the act of choosing what you become. The mind seeks the path of least resistance. If left untrained, it defaults to distraction, delay, and excuse. This is not a flaw but a survival mechanism. Training counteracts this tendency. It teaches the mind to endure discomfort, focus attention, and follow intention. Each day of training strengthens neural pathways associated with effort and control. Each day without training strengthens pathways associated with avoidance. Training is not limited to physical exertion. It includes mental discipline, emotional regulation, and behavioral consistency. Training the mind to focus for extended periods, to observe thoughts without reacting, and to return to intention builds internal strength. Emotional training involves facing discomfort, processing feelings, and choosing responses rather than reactions. Behavioral training is the repetition of aligned actions until they become natural. Habits are formed whether training occurs or not. The difference lies in who is in control. When habits are consciously built, they serve growth. When they are unconsciously formed, they rule behavior. Untrained habits decide when you wake, how you respond to stress, what you consume, and how you spend time. This silent control is often mistaken for personality or fate. Daily training creates structure. Structure reduces decision fatigue and provides stability. When training is scheduled and consistent, action becomes automatic. This automation is intentional rather than accidental. Instead of being ruled by impulse, behavior is guided by design. Structure does not restrict freedom, it protects it by reducing chaos. The effects of daily training compound over time. Small efforts repeated daily accumulate into significant capability. Skipping training may feel insignificant in the moment, but repetition of skipping becomes habit. Consistency is not about intensity, but reliability. Training daily does not require extreme effort, only commitment to showing up. Discipline grows through repetition. Each time you train despite resistance, discipline strengthens. Each time you avoid training, resistance strengthens. The mind learns from what you do, not what you plan. Daily training teaches the mind that effort is expected. Over time, resistance decreases and action becomes easier. Habit thrives in the absence of awareness. Training cultivates awareness by interrupting automatic behavior. It creates moments of choice. Awareness allows you to notice when habit tries to take over and to redirect action. Without this awareness, habit operates unchecked. Physical training teaches mental lessons. Enduring fatigue builds patience. Repeating movements refines attention. Pushing limits expands confidence. These lessons transfer to daily life. Training the body trains the mind to persist, focus, and adapt. Mental training sharpens perception. Practices such as concentration, reflection, or stillness strengthen control over attention. This control prevents distraction from dominating time and energy. Without mental training, the mind becomes reactive, chasing stimulation and avoiding effort. Emotional training builds resilience. Facing discomfort regularly reduces fear of it. Learning to stay present with difficult emotions prevents avoidance patterns. Without this training, emotions dictate behavior, leading to impulsive decisions and regret. Daily training reinforces identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who trains, someone who shows up, someone who follows through. Identity influences behavior. When training is part of identity, consistency becomes natural. Habits formed through training support long-term goals. Habits formed through neglect support short-term comfort. The difference becomes visible over time. One path leads to capability and self-respect. The other leads to stagnation and frustration. Training daily also teaches humility. Progress is gradual. Mastery requires patience. Daily practice reveals limitations and offers opportunity to improve. This humility keeps ego in check and focus on process. Without training, motivation becomes the driver. Motivation is unreliable. Training replaces motivation with commitment. Commitment is stable. It does not depend on mood or circumstance. The absence of training allows external influences to dominate. Media, environment, and social pressure shape habits unconsciously. Training establishes internal authority. It asserts choice over influence. Daily training is an act of self-governance. It is the decision to lead oneself rather than be led by impulse. This leadership extends beyond training into work, relationships, and decision-making. The consequences of neglect are subtle at first. A missed day feels insignificant. Over time, missed days become routine. Habits solidify. Change becomes harder. Training prevents this drift. Training daily does not require perfection. It requires presence. Even minimal effort maintains the pattern. The pattern is what matters. Habit will rule if training stops. Habit is always active. The choice is whether it is shaped intentionally or left to chance. Daily training is the mechanism of choice. It is how direction is maintained, strength is built, and control is preserved in a world that constantly encourages passivity and ease.